remain under the tornado watch at this point in the evening, and it comes at a rather appropriate time because we are talking about a tornado warning that is in effect for Jackson. Emily, we flip it back over to the radar. We are talking about a tornado warning that is in effect for Jackson and DeKalb County that is going to run until 8:45 this evening. Again, a tornado warning that is in effect for Jackson and DeKalb County. We still have the tornado watch in effect for Jackson, DeKalb, and Marshall counties. That's going to run until 10 o'clock this evening. But in the meantime, we have the tornado warning in effect as for Jackson and DeKalb counties until 8:45 this evening. This is radar indicated. We have nothing confirmed on the ground, but we have enough indicators on our radar here to tell us that we would potentially be talking about some sort of rotation. Doesn't look like it's the tightest rotation in the world. When you get the little stripes of gray in between the reds and the greens, reds and greens indicate winds going towards and away from the radar. That would show that our rotation is broadening up somewhat, and it looks like that's exactly what we see. And Emily and I were talking about this just a little bit ago, actually. We were literally just talking about this about 15 minutes ago, where we see this rotation tighten up for 2 or 3 radar scans. It looks like it's going to be something impressive, and then a lot of that rotation kind of fizzles away. I don't really see much in the way of very tight rotation, but what we have had is we have had a fair amount of wind shear associated.
Hey, real quick. Okay, so the National Weather Service, they have confirmed that there is a tornado debris signature northwest of Rainsville. They are going to update the tornado warning to radar confirmed.
So Emily, if you want, then flip it over to our correlation coefficient. I actually don't think that's in my list of options here. If you don't mind flipping it over to the correlation coefficient, you can just take back control of the radar if you really want to. Okay. But we can go and zoom in towards the Rainsville community and kind of see if we can see that debris signature. So Emily was just providing us with an update that we are actually talking about a confirmed tornado as indicated by some sort of a debris signature on the ground. So Emily's going to go switch it over to our radar product that actually has the ability to show us debris signatures as soon as she gets there. This is just our rain. This is what we're looking at. We're talking about a lot of very heavy rain, but Emily's going to go ahead and flip it over to a product that allows us to actually see debris signatures. And we're going to see what we can see over the next couple of minutes. That's the product. So if we can zoom in, we're going to kind of try and find it. Looks like it'd be just up. I believe it would be in that area, I want to say, is where we'd be talking about the potential for maybe a little bit. So there's Rainsville, but I don't really see any sort of debris signature near Rainsville. If I see anything interesting, it would actually end up being up towards Eider and Keith. And actually, yeah, this does look better. So here, you can go ahead and circle that, Emily. I'm pretty sure you have control of the radar anyway. So this is what we're talking about here. So you got a lot of this pink and a lot of this red, but at the same time, you've kind of got this highlight here in this little yellowish color just to the north of Rainsville, looking at a better product that allows us to more perfectly see this. This would kind of give us some sort of an indication that inanimate objects are flying through the air. Now, that could be a variety of things, but at this point, it is telling us that it is picking up on something that is bigger than your average raindrop. It's a little bigger than maybe your average leaf or your average twig. We'd be talking about some sort of inanimate object at this point, just to the north of Rainsville. So, Emily, if you don't mind, maybe switch it over to our velocity image and we can go back to our shear rate and kind of see if maybe we are talking about a little bit of increased tighter rotation. We are definitely talking about a lot of wind shear, kind of right in between Rainsville. Here's Rainsville, and then you head up towards Sylvania, and we are actually talking about a lot of really intense wind shear here. And again, wind shear is a change in wind speed and wind direction with height. So when you get that change in wind speed and wind direction with height, we are talking about a pretty solid indicator that maybe we are picking up on a little bit of rotation. You can go back over to that correlation coefficient if you want, and we can kind of see now that it looks like the radar has actually updated a couple of scans. We can see if we can still notice maybe that debris signature. And yeah, it actually kind of looks like maybe it's grown a little more impressive, Emily. That yellow has kind of brightened up just a little bit.
I do want to say real quick, they did drop, let's see, They went ahead and dropped Jackson County from this tornado warning. So really, we're just focused on DeKalb at the moment.
So good news there from Emily, certainly. Just focused on DeKalb County at this point for the tornado warning. Jackson County has been dropped from the tornado warning, so certainly some good news there. But we are talking about the potential for a confirmed tornado on the ground. This would be just to the north of Rainsville, just to the south of Sylvania. So we are talking about the potential of a confirmed tornado. The National Weather Service has picked up on what looks to be a little bit of a debris signature just to the north of Rainsville. That would give us some sort of an indication that inanimate objects are flying through the air. So that's something we're going to continue to watch over the next couple of minutes to kind of see what happens as far as this actual storm is concerned. So here's Rainsville, here's Sylvania, and then here's our winds going towards and our winds going away from the radar. I don't notice anything that would be super impressive as far as our rotation is concerned. And actually at this point, we're kind of getting away from Rainsville and we're kind of getting away from Sylvania. At this point, I think our area of interest would be in Blake. So if you know anybody in Blake, or if you yourself are in Blake, might I suggest seeking your tornado safe place immediately if you're not already there. Because what we were talking about over Rainsville just a couple of minutes ago is now beginning to move into your neck of the woods. I don't see some very distinct rotation. I don't see super tight rotation currently. Emily, if we can move that menu just a little to the right. So if your city is on this list, you definitely need to be in your tornado safe place. Valley Head by 848, Mentone by 850, and then Bankhead by 853. So this is something we're going to continue to monitor. Now, I know most of these towns are beyond the life of the tornado warning. The tornado warning for DeKalb County does not expire until 8:45, so most of these are actually beyond the life of the tornado warning. But this is something we're going to continue to monitor. And again, I don't notice a lot of very distinct rotation. It still looks like it's somewhat broad, but what we've really been able to notice is actually some impressive shear. We can go back over to our shear rate. And I want to see if we're maintaining that impressive shear as this storm moves through DeKalb County. And yeah, we really are doing a great job at maintaining that really impressive shear. The brighter greens, the darker reds indicate some very, very high wind shear. And wind shear is a change in wind speed and wind direction with height. Once you get that change in wind speed and wind direction with height, that's a really good indicator that we are talking about some rotation. We're also talking about a fair amount of lightning. You can go back over to our reflectivity if you want. We are talking about a lot of lightning within this storm. An uptick in lightning would also be a really good indicator that we are talking about an uptick in the intensity. If you're in Henniger right now, you're talking about some very heavy rain, some thunder and lightning. Things are really loud. Up into Ider, you're included in the tornado warning, but I don't think the threat for a tornado is extending this far north. I think we're going to be talking about the southern end of the tornado warning. That's where our area of interest is going to be. Again, if you're up in Ider, even if you're down in Henniger, I really don't think you're talking about much of a threat for a tornado. I think the threat is going to remain south of Henniger through the life of this tornado warning. What you are getting in Ider and Henniger, though, is you are getting a lot of rain. You're probably getting some gusty winds, and you are obviously getting some thunder and lightning, maybe even a little bit of hail. Emily, zoom things out for us. Look at the rest of the Tennessee Valley. We are quiet across northwest Alabama, Lauderdale, Cobbart, down into Franklin County. We are dry. Lawrence County, Limestone County. We're even beginning to dry out in Madison County. We're dry up across southern Middle Tennessee. We are still talking about a fair amount of rain across Morgan County, down into Coleman County. We're still talking about some pockets of very, very heavy rain. But our main area of interest for at least the next few minutes is going to be the tornado warning. Tornado warning in effect for DeKalb County. Tornado warning is going to run until 8:45. So we did originally have a tornado warning that was in effect for Jackson and DeKalb counties. Jackson was allowed to be dropped. And at this point, we're just talking about the one tornado warning that is in effect For DeKalb County, that one tornado warning is going to run until 8:45. Again, it looks like we're talking about the southern half of the warning here. If you're in Henniger, if you're in Eider, you are within the tornado warning. But do I think you're talking about much of a threat? No, probably not. Switched it over to our velocity image now. Looks like we're talking about a fair amount of broad rotation. At this point, we're just to the west of Valley Head. If you're in Valley Head, you probably need to be in your tornado safe place if you're not already there. It does look like we are talking about a fair amount of very broad rotation, but I don't see anything that's really jumping out at me at this point that would indicate some very strong, really tight rotation. So certainly some good news there, but at this point it still does look like we are talking about some very broad rotation. And this is something that can commonly happen when these storms move into northeast Alabama. If you've lived in the Tennessee Valley long enough, you know that this is a thing where we can have non-severe storms move across the Tennessee Valley, and then these storms move into northeast Alabama, and they're able to really get some energy behind them, and they're really able to ramp up. And that's exactly what we're seeing this evening. So it does look like we have a fair amount of broad rotation within this storm, again, just to the west of Valley Head. So if you are in Valley Head, you really need to be in your tornado safe place. If you're down in Alpine, probably need to get into your tornado safe place. You are included within this warning. Tornado warning in effect until 8:45. For DeKalb County. Tornado warning in effect for DeKalb County, and that's going to run until 8:45. No other confirmed reports of any sort of damage just yet, but that's something we're going to continue to monitor over the next. Emily, you got something to say?
Yeah, they're actually about to expire, this tornado warning, it looks like. The National Weather Service, when I say they, I'm speaking about the National Weather Service in Huntsville. They say that an expiration statement is on its way, so it does look like they aren't going to extend this any farther than the 8:45 timeline. Now, they also have been reiterating what Jordan has said as well. The rotation has definitely weakened at the surface, but of course there is still some broad rotation aloft, which is just higher up in the atmosphere. We have seen one report. It does look like law enforcement reports power lines down at Kirk Road and Alabama 35. That's in Rainsville. Rainsville is just in this polygon right towards in the south portion of this polygon, the south and west portion of this polygon. So that's the only damage report that we've seen so far, but it does look like they are going to allow this to expire at 8:45.
So we'll at least stick with you until we get to 8:45, but certainly some good news there. And again, what we're talking about is very broad rotation. At this point, we're talking about upper level rotation, which is also really picked up on shear rate. Shear rate tends to show us that change in wind speed and wind direction with height. So it shows us if a storm is rotating as we go up in altitude. So at this point, we're talking about upper level rotation. We're not necessarily talking about surface-based rotation, which is a really good indicator that we're not talking about a tornado on the ground at this point. But again, we did have the radar confirm tornado simply based on a debris signature that was back around Rainsville. That really hasn't been able to maintain itself as this activity has moved to the east. Still, I think you probably want to stay in your tornado safe place at least until the warning is allowed to expire. It's always good to stay in your tornado safe place.
It actually just expired.
And there we go. The warning just expired. But
good timing.
With you for at least another 5 minutes, just wrap things up around 8:45. You can flip it back over to our reflectivity. We can zoom back out, look at all of North Alabama, southern Middle Tennessee as a whole, and again, kind of go over the fact that we are much quieter across northwest Alabama. Lauderdale, Colbert, Franklin County, Lawrence County, Limestone County, nice and quiet. Most of Madison County at this point is dry, talking about a little bit of rain across southern Madison County. Our friends up in Giles and Lincoln counties, they are nice and dry at this point. Down into Morgan County, still picking up on a little bit of rain. We are talking about some heavy rain back across Coleman County and then obviously across northeast Alabama, Jackson, DeKalb, and Marshall counties. Speaking of Jackson, DeKalb, and Marshall counties, they continue to talk about the tornado watch. Tornado watch in effect for all of northeast Alabama. That tornado watch is not going to expire until 10 o'clock this evening. Though as the threat continues to move through, I would expect the National Weather Service is going to continue to drop counties off from the tornado watch. But just bear in mind that we are still talking about conditions that are ripe for the development of some tornadic activity. So that's something we're going to continue to watch, really, as this main line here, all the way through Fort Payne and then down into Albertville. We're talking about some very heavy rain. Getting to the east of Scottsboro at this point, most of the activity beginning to move east of Jackson County, really beginning to move into northwest Georgia. So certainly some good news there, but we are probably still talking about a fair amount of heavy rain. Stevenson down towards Scottsboro and then down to Fort Payne, Albertville, still talking about some pockets of very heavy rain. At this point, I think a lot of these storms are just going to end up being really, really noisy. A lot of thunder, a lot of lightning, some gusty winds. Now, these storms do have the potential to bring some smaller hail with them. I don't think we're going to be talking about hail as much as far as a big concern. I think we're going to be talking about the gusty winds, we're going to be talking about the thunder, and we're going to be talking about the lightning. We're also going to be talking about the very, very heavy rain. There's going to be a lot of rain falling in a very short period of time. So I think flash flooding is definitely going to be a possibility. I was talking to somebody earlier that lives in more western Madison County over into Limestone County, was talking, and there were some roads that were completely covered with a couple of inches of water. So I think flash flooding is going to be a concern as we go through the duration of the evening, and then maybe we talk about some prolonged aerial flooding as we head into the overnight. Now, if we talk about some prolonged aerial flooding as we head into the overnight, I think that would be focused across northwest Alabama, where they saw a lot of rain very early this morning. So if you're just joining us this evening, we were talking about a tornado warning that was in effect for, at one point, Jackson and DeKalb Counties. Tornado warning has since been allowed to expire. A lot of that surface-based rotation really kind of fell apart. Now, we are still talking about some rotation aloft as we go up in altitude, and so that's something we're definitely going to continue to monitor over the next several minutes as this main line of showers and thunderstorms continues to move into West Georgia. Still at this point, we are talking about a lot of rain, we are talking about a lot of wind, and then certainly we are talking about some thunder and lightning. Line of showers and thunderstorms extends all the way down into Blount County, so just be mindful of that if you happen to know anybody down in Blount County. They are going to be talking about a lot of thunder, a lot of lightning, some gusty winds, and some very heavy rain. But our primary concern for the rest of the evening is going to be across northeast Alabama, Jackson, DeKalb, and Marshall counties, primarily DeKalb and Marshall counties. I think they're going to be our main concern. If you're in Jackson County at this point, you're just going to be dealing with some very heavy rain and some gusty winds at this point in the evening. A lot of the activity that was in Jackson County is now beginning to move into northwest Georgia. So certainly some good news there. But this is an activity that we're going to continue to monitor for the next several minutes as all of it continues to move into Georgia. Elsewhere across the Tennessee Valley, we are much quieter, and for the most part, I expect we are going to stay quiet through the duration of the evening. The Huntsville metro area at this point is nice and dry up in Fayetteville and southern Middle Tennessee, nice and dry. Florence down into Russellville, Decatur, Hartselle, all really beginning to dry out at this point in the evening. We're still talking about a lot of very heavy rain, some thunderstorms back across northeast Alabama. You can still see the polygon. The polygon's probably not going to go away until 8:45, so we've still got about another minute for that. The tornado warning has been allowed to expire. Now, we did have a radar confirmed tornado. We didn't see anything on the ground. No storm spotters over in northeast Alabama have confirmed anything. But we did have a radar confirmed tornado simply based on what we saw as far as the debris signature is concerned. We saw on one of our radar products that maybe we were talking about some inanimate objects being sent up in the air. Bigger than the average raindrop, something that would show up as a little more eye-popping compared to what we'd just be talking about as far as rain is concerned. So at this point in the evening, none of this activity comes with any sort of severe thunderstorm warning. We're not talking about any tornado warnings. The tornado warning that was in effect for DeKalb County has since been allowed to expire. But as this line continues to move into Georgia over the next several minutes, it's something that we're going to continue to monitor. And if we have to break into programming, obviously Fox 54 News at 9 starts in about 15 minutes. We will certainly break into programming, but for now, we'll send you back to what you were watching.